My son caught my wife with her boss. He broke my son's jaw to keep him quiet. He forgot who I am. To our amazing viewers at Soldiers Revenge Stories, I'd love to hear which part of the world you're joining us from. Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's tale of betrayal, resilience, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. I stood at my kitchen window, watching my 25-year-old son Nate shoot hoops in the driveway during one of his weekend visits. At 62, my hands scarred and steady from 2 decades in Special Forces gripped my coffee mug tightly. The ceramic felt warm against palms that had known far more violence than peace. The morning sun glinted off Nate's dark hair, reminding me of how Marina's had looked when we first met over 30 years ago, full of life and promise. I carried myself with the quiet confidence of a man who'd survived the harshest missions, my broad shoulders and lean frame, a testament to the discipline I maintained long after retiring from the service 15 years ago when Nate was just 10. A small scar above my left eyebrow and the way my gray eyes constantly scanned the surroundings were subtle hints of my military past to those who knew what to look for. "Dad, you coming to my pickup game next weekend?" Nate called out, dribbling the ball with that effortless rhythm he had honed since college. "Wouldn't miss it, son," I replied, my voice carrying the faint rasp from years of barking orders in desert winds. Family came first, it always had. That's why I left the military behind, building Ashley Security Solutions into a thriving business instead of missing out on my boy's life. Marina emerged from our bedroom, her hair neatly styled as always. At 55, she still held the poised elegance that had drawn me to her at that long-ago charity event. Her tailored dress accentuated her figure as she moved with the grace of someone used to commanding attention in boardrooms. "I'll be late tonight," she announced, barely meeting my eyes as she grabbed her purse and laptop bag. Big push on the Morrison account. Marina had been marketing director at Pinnacle Communications, a mid-size ad firm downtown for the past decade. She'd thrown herself into the role after years of supporting my career moves, saying she needed something of her own. I'd backed her, fully proud of her drive and accomplishments. "How late?" I asked, studying her face. Lately, she'd seemed more distant, her words more guarded, like she was measuring every syllable. 9, maybe 10. "Preston's insisting on perfection for this contract, you know how he gets." Her laugh rang hollow, and she avoided my gaze as she mentioned her boss. I nodded, tucking away the name. Preston Quinn had cropped up more often in conversations these past months, always tied to late nights and high-stakes projects. My instincts sharpened by years of reading threats in life-or-death ops, we were whispering alarms I'd tried to dismiss. "Dad, mind dropping me back at my apartment?" Nate appeared in the doorway, slinging his bag over his shoulder. "Your mom's car is blocking the driveway again." I ruffled his hair with a chuckle. Nate had gotten the best of us both, my strong build and even temper, Marina's sharp mind and expressive eyes. He was a solid young man, a software engineer, making his way still close enough to drop by for these father-son moments. As we drove to his place across town, Nate chatted about his latest project at work and that upcoming game against old rivals. I listened intently, offering advice on strategy and balance. These times with him were my anchor reminders of what I'd fought for overseas and built here at home. "Thanks, Dad," Nate said as we pulled up. "Love you." "Love you too, son. Remember, confidence and preparation outlast luck every time." He grinned, echoing my old mantra before heading inside. I watched him go, then drove to my office. Ashley Security Solutions sat on the top floor of a renovated warehouse, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a sweeping city view. I'd grown it from scratch using my military network and rep for results. My team of 12 handled corporate assessments to VIP protection. Morning boss called out Brett Wise, my second-in-command, an old squad mate from Afghanistan, now 60 like me. Brett managed the tech-side surveillance, cybersecurity, and intel gathering. His easy smile hit a mind sharp as a blade in electronic ops. "Brett, any update on the Patterson deal?" "Signed and sealed. They loved our pitch for the new site." His face turned serious. Speaking of, I wrapped that discreet check you wanted on Preston Quinn. I'd asked 2 weeks back, telling myself it was routine caution for anyone orbiting my family. Old habits from a world where paranoia saved lives. Clean on paper 58, divorced a decade ago, no kids. MBA from Northwestern, solid career at 3 agencies before Pinnacle. No priors, good credit, owns a downtown condo. Brett paused. But gaps in his employment, 18 months unexplained between gigs. I filed it away. Resumes often hid more in the blanks. Anything else? He logs late hours key card, shows him out after 10 p.m., 4 nights a week for 6 months. Same window as Marina's overtime spikes. I kept my face neutral, but my gut clenched. Instincts had saved me too many times to ignore. The morning blurred with meetings, but at lunch I drove by Pinnacle's sleek glass tower, telling myself it was scouting potential clients. Marina's car wasn't visible, likely in the underground garage. My phone buzzed her text about a long client lunch home after 7. At 12:30, that stretched credibility. That evening I helped Nate with some tech advice over the phone while eyeing the clock. Marina's updates trickled in, still in meetings, team dinner, final tweaks. Each felt thinner than the last. She got home past 10:30 looking composed despite the grueling day. Fresh makeup, styled hair, a whiff of unfamiliar cologne. How'd the presentation go? I asked from my chair where I'd been reading, or mostly brooding. Solid. Preston thinks we're in good shape. She slipped off her heels, the move once endearing, now rehearsed. Exhausted, heading up. She pecked my forehead, cool and quick, then vanished upstairs. I sat there hearing the shower run, wrestling with the gap between the woman I'd married and the stranger in my house. In the dark, my training kicked in and assessed, gather intel, plan contingencies. I'd hoped never to deploy those skills at home. I'd survived too much to ignore the signs. Tomorrow I'd uncover what Marina was hiding. And if my hunch held, whoever aided her deception would learn why my old COs called me the collector, because I always claimed what was due in full. As the days blurred into routine, my suspicions gnawed deeper, like an itch I couldn't ignore. I'd seen enough in my special forces days to know when something or someone was off. Marina's late nights had become a pattern, her excuses polished but brittle under scrutiny. That morning, after dropping Nate, I headed to the office, my mind replaying her distant gaze, the faint cologne that wasn't mine, clinging to her clothes the night before. Brett was already at his desk, digging into Preston Quinn's background as I'd requested. Gaps in his resume, boss, 18 months unexplained. And those late building exits aligned perfectly with Marina's overtime. I nodded, filing it away. Paranoia had kept me alive overseas. Here it might save my family. By afternoon, I couldn't shake it. I drove past Pinnacle Communications, parking discreetly across the street. Through binoculars from my truck, old habits die hard, I spotted her silver BMW in the garage. She emerged looking composed, but there was a flush to her cheeks, a secretive smile as she touched up her lipstick in the mirror. What was she hiding? My gut twisted. After 30 years, our life had been stable, predictable, maybe too much so. Had that driven her to seek something fresher, more exhilarating? I tailed her subtly into the building, blending with the crowd. From a shadowed corner near the elevators, I watched her step out on the 8th floor, exchanging a loaded glance with a tall man in a charcoal suit. Preston Quinn, no doubt. His hand brushed hers as he handed over coffee, too intimate for colleagues. They vanished down the hall, and I slipped away, heart pounding. Back at the office, Brett pulled up security feeds we'd discreetly accessed. Old contacts came in handy. There they were in a conference room, door shut, facades dropping. Preston pulled her close, whispering urgencies I couldn't hear but could guess. Leave him. His lips formed on the grainy footage. We deserve more, Portland, a fresh start. Marina hesitated but nodded, discussing a joint account transfers she'd made, my money, our money, building their escape fund. The betrayal hit like a gut punch, sharper than any battlefield wound. She'd found thrill in his arms, seeing our steady life as a cage after all these years. But uprooting everything, Nate's stability. Our shared history. That evening, she arrived home late again, makeup fresh, eyes avoiding mine. "Productive day," she said, kicking off her heels with feigned exhaustion. I played along, kissing her forehead, but inside the collector in me stirred. Her inner conflict flickered in her gaze, guilt warring with desire, but she'd chosen this path. As she headed upstairs, I sat in the dim light, planning my next move. The phone rang at 2:47 p.m., cutting through my review of security protocols like a siren in the quiet office. Brett glanced up from his screen as I answered. My instincts, already flaring calls from unknown numbers, rarely brought good news. "Ashley Security Solutions, Marshall speaking." "Mr. Ashley, this is Patricia Collins from General Memorial Hospital. Your son Nate has been admitted with injuries. You need to get here now." My world narrowed to a pinpoint heart slamming against ribs like it had in ambush drills. "Nate injured." I grabbed my keys, signaling Brett to follow mine, racing through scenarios: car accident, work mishap. The drive blurred in a haze of red lights and honks every second, stretching as I gripped the wheel, knuckles white. What could have happened to my boy at the ER? Nate sat on the exam bed, face pale and bruised, a temporary brace on his jaw, but nothing broken, just swelling and a mild concussion, the nurse said. Tears tracked his cheeks, but he held them back, echoing the resilience I drilled into him. "Dad," he mumbled, voice thick with pain and shock. I rushed to his side, hands hovering, afraid to touch and worsen it. "I'm here, son. What happened?" The story spilled in fragments, each word a dagger. He'd gone to surprise Marina at her office, wanting to discuss family finances, our savings, perhaps helping with his student loans. I bought her flowers, Dad, from my savings. But she wasn't at her desk. The receptionist pointed to a meeting with Quinn. Nate had wandered to find her, the door ajar, to Preston's office. There they were, entwined, more than colleagues' clothes disheveled on his desk. I felt ice flood my veins, then fire. 15 years of trust shattered in an instant. Nate froze, but Preston spotted him first, shoving Marina aside in rage. He yelled awful things, Dad, about how long they'd been together, what Mom said about you, about us being a burden. Preston lunged, grabbing Nate's collar, slamming him against the wall with threats. "Tell anyone, and worse comes to your old man." Then the push hard, sending Nate tumbling, head cracking against a cabinet edge. No fracture, but enough to daze him, draw blood. Marina. She'd screamed for Preston to stop, but stood frozen, more frantic about exposure than her son's pain. She just cried. Dad said he'd ruined everything. The betrayal burned deeper than any wound, my wife watching our boy hurt to protect her secret. Dr. Sarah Chun confirmed mild concussion, bruises, rest, and observation overnight. Rage coiled in my chest, cold and strategic, like pre-mission calm. This wasn't just infidelity, it was a threat to my family. I texted Marina casually, "Working late." Her reply a lie, "Yes, love you." Then I called Brett. Full workup on Quinn and Marina, finances, habits, connections. Everything. My voice was steel. "Someone laid hands on my son. They're about to learn the bata." Brett's tone sharpened. He'd seen me in combat mode. "On it." Back at Nate's bedside, I held his hand, vowing silently, "No one threatens what's mine." I arrived at the office before dawn, the weight of Nate's story pressing like a vice on my chest. Surrounded by stacks of files and digital printouts, I sipped black coffee, its bitter heat mirroring the storm inside. Brett had pulled an all-nighter, leveraging our network of law enforcement and banking contacts, legal channels, only no shortcuts that could backfire. "Tell me everything," I said, voice low and controlled, the same tone I'd used in pre-op briefings. Brett laid it out methodically, documents fanning across my desk like evidence in a trial. It's confirmed, 8 months deep, not just stolen moments. They've been building an exit strategy. Bank statements showed a joint savings account opened 6 months back, 47,000 deposited in gradual transfers from Marina's personal funds. Our household money skimmed in small bites to avoid flags. "She's funding their getaway." Brett added, sliding over travel records, a New York weekend, 6 weeks ago, luxury hotel and shows, while she'd claimed a Chicago conference. I'd handled Nate alone that time, proud of her career push. Now it burned like acid. Phone logs painted the rest, daily texts, late night calls, GPS pings, placing her at Preston's condo 3 nights a week. The deception hit visceral, a hollow ache in my gut, turning 30 years of shared life into a facade. But rage sharpened my focus. This wasn't emotional, it was operational. Preston's no prince. Brett continued, his expression darkening. Real history manipulator of successful women, drawing them in for financial support before discarding them. Divorced 10 years ago amid accusations of emotional abuse and physical incidents. 2 dropped DV charges when victims backed out. Employment gaps match periods, living off partners. His current lifestyle, all flash on credit. Condo mortgaged, high spending, outpacing income. Marina unwittingly subsidizing dinners and trips as romance. Emails recovered legally from work servers sealed it. Marina musing about our stale life. Preston pushing Portland relocation, her consulting, a divorce attorney, there on asset splits and minimizing my role with Nate. They're accelerating, Brett said, planning to break it this weekend. The pieces clicked like a loaded chamber betrayal, not just personal, but calculated theft of trust money, family. Cold fury settled, strategic and unyielding. I dismantled worse threats overseas. Set up full surveillance, GPS on her car, email monitoring through Warren's phone taps via contacts. All above board, nothing traceable back. Brett nodded, our network ensured compliance. This was war now, and I excelled at winning. Nate's surgery went smoothly the next morning. Titanium plates securing his jaw, though the emotional scars ran deeper. I stayed by his side until discharge, but my mind was already mapping the battlefield. Marina arrived at the hospital later, her concern laced with unease, eyes darting as if sensing the shift in me. That evening, I orchestrated a family dinner, setting the table with our best china candles flickering like interrogation lights. The aroma of her favorite herb roasted chicken filled the air, a deliberate nod to normalcy amid the brewing storm. As we sat, I steered the conversation to retirement plans, ours together. Thought we might tour Europe, soon revisit my old German bases before settling into quieter days. Her fork hesitated, the idea of shared futures clashing with her hidden schemes, right? She nodded, but tension coiled in her posture, suspicion flickering in her green eyes. Sounds expensive, she murmured, voice guarded. I pressed gently, watching cracks form. Had she caught my probing questions the way I'd eyed her schedule? Good. Doubt was my first weapon, eroding her confidence without a word. Later, surveillance feeds buzzed on my office screen, Marina slipping into Preston's conference room, their whispers urgent. We need to slow down Nate's recovery first, she said, but he countered, pushing Portland, timelines their joint fund. Every word streamed to me raw and incriminating, fueling the cold precision in my chest. Brett monitored alongside our legal net, tightening GPS pings, email flags, all through vetted channels. I sketched psychological strikes, anonymous notes, subtle disruptions to rattle them without a trace. With surveillance locked in, I initiated phase 1 that evening, subtle, surgical, designed to plant seeds of doubt without a trace. Brett slipped an envelope under Preston's BMW wiper in his gym garage, a crisp photo from our feeds capturing him and Marina in that conference room embrace, time-stamped hours earlier. The note was concise. Actions have consequences. Secrets expire. This is your warning, a concerned observer. No specifics on Nate, just enough ambiguity to rattle, forcing him to connect the dots himself. As I monitored from my home office, the feed showed him retrieving it, face paling under fluorescent lights, hands trembling as he scanned the empty space. Satisfaction flickered through me, cool and calculated. This wasn't vengeance. It was recalibration, reminding a predator what it felt like to be prey. Preston drove erratically to his condo, checking mirrors like a novice evading tails. Paranoia set in fast. He drew blinds, poured wine with unsteady pours, pacing as he reread the note. My instincts hummed he'd suspect corporate rivals first, but his mind would circle to me, the ex-Special Forces husband with resources. The emotional toll hit me then, a deep ache blending fury and sorrow. 30 years and she'd chosen this charade over us, but strategy overrode feeling. This strike eroded his arrogance, making him question every shadow. By nightfall, Marina texted him, heading over late. The audio picked up their reunion tense, his voice edged with urgency. Someone's watching, he muttered, showing her the photo. Could be Marshall. He's got the background for this. She dismissed it at first, but doubt crept into her tone. He's not the type. They pressed on hashing Portland details, the joint fund, and accelerating timelines despite Nate's recovery. Every word fueled my resolve, their whispers, a roadmap for countermeasures. I leaned back, sketching disruptions, anonymous tips to his creditors. Subtle echoes of their plans fed back to unsettle. Phase 2 dawned in with calculated precision, my strikes escalating to dismantle Preston's illusion of control without leaving fingerprints. From the office, I watched the feeds, his BMW tires subtly deflated overnight. Not slashed, just precise leaks mimicking wear, stranding him in the garage. He cursed, scanning shadows, paranoia etching his face as he called a cab. Satisfaction coursed through me, sharp and focused. This was strategy, turning his routines against him, mirroring the isolation he'd inflicted on my family. At Pinnacle, Brett's legal tip to their IT flagged a breach, emails exposed through compliant channels, our network whispering hints of scrutiny. Preston's secretary delivered the news, his composure cracking as he realized private exchanges with Marina were vulnerable. Then came the consultant, one of my trusted operatives, Cameron Silva, posing as a building security assessor. Recent threats to executives like you, Cameron said in Preston's office, handing a card from our dummy firm. Stalking surveillance, we recommend immediate countermeasures. Preston's handshake faltered, eyes narrowing. He probed, but Cameron's script was ironclad, planting seeds of exposure without accusation. Financial pressure followed, anonymous reports to his bank via regulatory contacts flagging suspicious activity, those leveraged loans, the joint fund with Marina, drawing quiet audits. Accounts froze pending review, cutting his escape routes. The emotional toll gnawed at me, a mix of grim resolve and hollow grief, knowing Marina's choices had invited this storm. But strategy demanded detachment. This was dismantling an enemy piece by legal piece. Preston's call to his ex-wife confirmed the unraveling. Someone's digging our divorce, the old incidents. Her voice carried wariness, revealing his manipulative past abuse claims dropped under pressure. He hung up, shaken, the noose tightening. Marina texted cancellation. Family dinner. Nate's improving. Their plans stalled. Preston paced alone, the once confident predator now cornered, glancing at every shadow. I leaned back, monitoring his isolation, the ache in my chest fueling precision. Marina pulled into the driveway at 6:47 p.m., her headlights cutting through the gathering dusk like hesitant probes. I'd prepared an elaborate family dinner, the table set with good china, and candles casting flickering shadows that danced like unspoken accusations. The scent of roasted chicken wafted through the house, a deliberate anchor to our shared past, while Nate sat nearby, his jaw still tender, but spirits lifting. As she entered, I noted the subtle strain in her posture, the way her shoulders tensed, eyes avoiding mine, as if the air itself carried my suspicions. "What's this?" she asked, voice laced with unease, despite the warmth I'd orchestrated. "A proper family sit-down," I replied evenly, stirring the pot without looking up. "Been too long since we shared a meal without distractions." We settled at the table, Nate chatting lightly about his work project, but I steered us toward the future, our future. "I've been thinking about retirement spots," I said casually, serving portions with measured care. "Maybe Germany again, touring old bases, then settling somewhere quiet, just us exploring like before." Her fork paused midair, the suggestion of joint plans clashing with her hidden agenda. The flicker in her eyes' surprise, mixed with wariness, confirmed it. She was testing the waters, wondering if I knew. That sounds involved, she managed, forcing a smile that didn't reach her soul. I pressed on, describing castles and vineyards, watching her composure crack guilt, surfacing like cracks in ice. The strategy was simple: mirror her deceptions back, forcing confrontation on my terms, the emotional undercurrent a blade twisting slowly. As dessert was wrapped, I leaned in. Speaking of plans, someone's been inquiring about my military records, background checks, references. Her color drained, the lies she'd built crumbling under my gaze. Any idea why? She stammered a denial, but I revealed the surveillance piecemeal. Late nights tracked mileage mismatches, text to unnamed numbers. 12 years in special forces taught me patterns. I said quietly, voice steady but laced with the ache of betrayal, a deep, hollow pain that fueled rather than weakened. Like how you've been at his condo Tuesdays and Thursdays. Panic flooded her features, eyes widening in horror as the facade shattered. Marshal, But I held firm, the strategist in me unmoved, though my heart twisted at the woman I'd loved reduced to this. She bolted to her office, fingers flying over her phone calls to Preston, going straight to voicemail, texts undelivered, our blocks in place. Isolation complete. She returned pale, realizing the web I'd woven, every move anticipated, every secret. Leveraged legally, turning her double life into a cage of her own making. The final act unfolded at 7:43 a.m. My strategy reaching its pinnacle as reports flooded in from our legal channels. Preston arrived at Pinnacle Communications to find HR and company counsel waiting, armed with irrefutable evidence, documented late-night meetings, financial transfers from the joint account, and witness statements corroborating his manipulative patterns. No fabrications, just the truth unearthed through subpoenas and audits. He was terminated on the spot for ethics violations and conflicts of interest, with an investigation launched into potential embezzlement from client funds he'd siphoned to maintain his facade. Watching the feed of him being escorted out, handcuffs glinting under office lights, a quiet resolve settled over me. Not glee, but the satisfaction of balance restored, like a mission completed without excess casualties. Marina drove home in a daze, her phone buzzing with my text, "Come now, we talk." She entered the living room where I waited, bread at my side, amid stacks of printouts and surveillance logs. The chronicle of her 8-month betrayal laid bare. "Sit," I said, quietly, my voice steady despite the storm within, a deep-seated grief mingling with unyielding justice. She stood defiant at first, but as I presented the evidence bank records of her transfers, emails plotting Portland, and GPS trails to his condo, her facade crumbled, tears tracing paths of regret. "I know it all." I continued, the words heavy with the weight of our shattered vows. "The affair, the stolen funds for your escape, standing by while he hurt our son." Her protest faltered. The pain in her eyes mirrored my own, a raw ache for what we'd lost after 3 decades. But choices had consequences. I handed her the divorce papers filed that morning on grounds of adultery and financial misconduct. Terms were fair yet firm. I retained the house primary access to Nate and the bulk of assets she'd jeopardized. She'd get enough to restart, but no more illusions of luxury on stolen ground. "You chose this," I said, voice reflecting the collector's final tally. "Betrayal over loyalty, a stranger over family." She tried calling Preston, but the lines were dead, his world collapsing parallel to hers. In that moment, she understood I'd orchestrated not destruction, but accountability, every move strategic and legal, turning their web against them. 3 days later, Marina left with suitcases, the door closing like a chapter's end, her figure receding in the driveway, symbolizing the freedom she'd sought, now a solitary path of reflection. Preston's investigation deepened, his career in ruins, the predator exposed and isolated. Nate chose to stay close, our bond strengthened through the fire. We rebuilt over shared meals and hoops, his resilience a beacon. As for me, I returned to Ashley Security Solutions. The house quieter but honest like a sunrise after a storm, symbolizing renewal, the light of truth banishing shadows. I'd collected the debt in full, not for revenge, but justice emerging, freer, wiser eyes on a brighter horizon where loyalty and self-respect paved the way forward. This is where our story ends, a reminder that betrayal may wound, but integrity rebuilds. If this tale of resilience inspired you, like and subscribe for more stories. Share your thoughts or a similar experience in the comments below. Let's build a community of strength together and click the next video on screen to keep the inspiration flowing.